What's up, guys? The game updated today. Added a couple things. For example, they added a community pass instead of a bi-weekly. It is pay to win. It accepts everything that, like the skins and stuff. The skins might be there. No, because Glacier appears there. That's the skin for Scoot. That, and then there's Fallen Angel and Firework, and then Scoot. So there's that. They added quest units over here, here. Waiting for Endo up here, but they also made summoners like Oni affect bosses, which is really nice. But what I'm gonna do, well, first things first, I can show off the skin. This is the shiny Glacier, and I'm not gonna lie, they cooked. This looks amazing. Let's go to night 6, sandbox. Let's do Christmas 2, nightmare. Must have A units equipped, of course. I like Oni, so we're gonna do Oni. We're gonna do that. Endless. Yeah, why not? Let's do endless. Let's see if the units are worth the grind. Of course, it's gonna show their normal. AFK also is new present. I'm gonna have to be grinding for those to evolve Withered. But we're gonna select units. Example is that we're gonna use are you, and then you, and then looking through. Sorry, you're the nightmare from the new night thing, and then we could do spring trap, scrap trap, and all that later. How many I have left? One more. I think I could do the secret from the thing, which would be radioactive Foxy. We're gonna do that. Admins, give us just whole 9, but 10 trillion? I guess 10 trillion is. Placement limit of 1. Goes into cone, but he's... Okay, fine. We'll do that and pause wave so I can read. So, while the enemies in range deals more damage, the longer enemies in units, right? 2% a second, max 150%. If enemy is bleeding, increase to 2.5 a second instead. When enemy is trying to leave range first time, knock back enemies by 5 tiles and stun them for 2 seconds. Reset. Call the Abyss. Damage buff on that enemy. Attacks apply 25% bleed over 5 seconds. If there are 3+ sources of bleed on the enemy, buff this bleed application to 40%, deal 25% more damage to bleeding enemies. If enemy is in the latter half of the track, deal 20% more damage, apply additional 10% bleed. Interesting. So he's decent. I believe he's placement limit of 2, while you're placement level 1. Because he's almost 2000 DPS, which is good. Now for him, on attack, stuns enemies for 1.8 seconds. If enemy is stun locked out, do the follow-up for 50% of this unit's damage in a full AoE. Deals +1 shield. Oh, that's actually really good. Follow up for 50% on shield break. That's good, actually. When enemy enters within 50% of this unit's range for the first time, Knock back enemy 2 tiles if the enemy is a boss. Stun for 2.5 seconds after stun lockout ends. Attacks apply 30% more bleed over 5 seconds, deals bonus damage equal to slow on the enemy. Bleeding enemies in range are slowed by 15%. Damn. It's actually pretty good. Let's do radioactive. Goes line to line. He's a placement limit of 2 too. He applies 25% bleed and poison. Oh damn. That's a stacker right there. When this unit is stunned, next attack applies an additional 100% bleed and 100% poison over 10 seconds. Stun enemies in range for 1.8 seconds. Slow enemies in range by 15% for 15 seconds. It's actually really good. Not gonna lie. Placement level 1. Line to AoE. Okay. So gas surrounds the inner 50% of this unit's range. Units in range of gas, damage buff by 30%, cooldown increase by 5%. So that's fair. Units in range of mutating gas are stunned for 5 seconds every 15 seconds. Whenever a unit is stunned, the unit's range. This unit receives a 50% damage for 5 seconds for every stunned unit. The stunning unit receives a 25% damage for 10 seconds. That's decent actually, especially with him. Now Fallen Angel we're going to place right here. And boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Deals 500% damage in a line on hit, applies 20% slow for 10 seconds. If enemy dies while the slow is still active, summon a Flaming Nightmarion plushie for 100% damage as health. On attack, buff this unit's damage by 10%, max 50%. Once this buff is maxed out, keep the max buff for 3 attacks and reset. For every light and dark element on the team, dark is 5% damage, light is 5% range. So on a dark team, he would be really good. And then select units, unequip, 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 and then who else is there? You're the only other new nightmare other than him. We could do L-Chip, Funtime Chica, Scrap Baby. Let's see here, who else is new? Firework, of course. Music Man, Henry, and honestly radioactive, I guess. Well, it's already full. Okay. Well, what does radioactive do? So we could skip past it. On attack, applies 50% poison over 5 seconds. If this unit is stunned, buff the unit's damage by 50% for 20 seconds. Apply 500% slowing for 50. 500 is just 1,000% slowing for 15 seconds. Not bad, actually. L-Chip, placement limit of 1. Taco Truck. I see. A line. This unit gains buffs depending on the chosen filling. Beef's 15% damage, 15% range, 5% worse cooldown. Chicken's 5% worse damage, 5% range, 10% cooldown. Vegan is 25% damage, 10% range, and 10% worse cooldown. Every 3 waves automatically upgrades L-Chip once. This unit cannot be sold after being placed. Buff this unit's damage by 50% on odd waves, reduce this unit's cooldown on 30% on even waves. When a boss is on the map, both buffs are active at once. Okay, that's actually not bad. That's not bad. Okay, Funtime Chica. I see she gets her own stage. Is a cone AoE. If I can get on her again. Light units in range gain 20% damage for each light unit in range. This unit gains 5% damage, max 50%. If an enemy is in 50% of this unit's range, this unit gains 50% damage. That's pretty good. %50 crit rate with 50% crit damage. If there is a unit with a higher damage stat in range, gains 25% crit damage, 20% damage. Crits in range. Buff his own unit crit by 1%, max 75%. Crit rate over 100 converts directly into crit damage. I see. Okay. Not bad. Okay, Scrap Baby. There's a circle type. Decaying Malevolence. Every attack lower this unit's cooldown by 1%, max 20%. After 20 attacks, enemies in range take 30% more damage from DOT effects. Attacks inflict bleed, dealing 45% of this unit's damage every second for 4 seconds, dealing 55% more damage to enemies already inflicted with bleed. It's actually not bad. So oh, placement limiter 2 for you. And then for fun times, placement limiter 1. Music Man, placement limiter 1. He's a circle, just like every 10 seconds deals 200% damage to all enemies in range. This unit gains 1% damage for every 1%. For every 1% the music setting is turned up. Okay. So you're telling me that if I turn music to 100%, oh my gosh. And if oh my gosh, it actually does that. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. Firework Shadow Freddy. I like the VFX on this one. Wow. 412 plus 412, but it's applying fuse, exploding after 3 seconds, dealing 100% damage in a small AoE. Fuse has a bonus effect based on the current firework. Red explosion radius increased by 25%. Blue detonates a smaller explosion after 1 second, dealing 35% damage. Purple's explosions guarantee crit. Every 30 seconds, rotate the current firework color. Red, 50% damage. Blue, 20% cooldown. Purple, 50% crit rate and 25% crit damage. And finally, Henry. We're gonna max you up. Every 5 seconds, this unit summons an endo with stats depending on the current upgrade. This unit gains parts whenever an enemy is killed within this unit's range. Boss kills grant 16 parts. Parts are used to upgrade the endo summons. Level 150 parts. Summons are 125% as health increased by to 150% if another rust is on the team. Level 2 summons 200% damage as health explodes on death, dealing 150% damage in a 16 range. Level 3 is summons have 275% damage as health, and it is guaranteed to crit on death explodes for 150% damage and applies 15% exposure, increasing this unit's summon damage to enemies within 18 range radius from 10 seconds. It's actually not bad. Admin. We're gonna unpause. And wow. And there is another rust on the team, so a lot of damage. Let's see what else can I use that is new. I haven't used Michael, so I want to know, but I'm not going to use Michael because it's not a new update unit. I know they fixed Oni's summons, but I'm not going to use it. I think that's all the units, actually. But yeah, these are the new update units. Honestly, not gonna lie, that Music Man might be really insane. These units are worth it. Now the thing is like if you don't want to spend like $10 to buy the pass, that's okay. Everything isn't here. Its only thing is here. It's all signed by developers that created it. But yeah. Everybody have a good night. And if you're still night like me, stay safe and see ya.